everybody, it's Jenny J 1911. It is so great to see everybody. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm here, and yes, Cowboy Jeff says he's here. He's got his Jenny J cup and check. And so my Cowboy Jeff, I have my Jenny J cup too. So yay. We're twins. So it is so awesome to see everybody. I know it's been about a week and a half since we've talked. And so thank you for being patient with me and letting us get some family things taken care of. And, you know, we've got football over now. We had our last football game this last Friday night. So we are going to be back rocking and rolling, getting more videos out and just being able to, you know, have more lives and get more content pushed out to you guys so that in the winter months when you have nothing better to do, you can sit and watch reruns of Jenny J 1911. I don't know what could be better than that. You can do what we like to do. We actually like to have, especially on winter evenings when we sit and watch a movie, we'll cuddle up on the couch and we have something we call lovingly popcorn goop. It's basically Rice Krispie squares, but popcorn instead of Rice Krispie. And while it's all still melty. So we pop the popcorn, we make sure we take all the kernels out, and we melt butter and marshmallows and roll it all together. And then we just sit on the couch with this big bowl and share the bowl, eat it right straight from the bowl. And so that's what you can do. That can be the official Jenny J viewing snack, just in case any of you need a good recipe. Some of our finest cooking. So we have so much to talk about tonight. First of all, I want to give a little shout out. I'm seeing some good old familiar names here. I've got my members, Cowboy Jeff 1911 with his Jenny J cup, and I've got Stephen Hall here tonight. Great to see you guys. We also have Michael Slee in the house. He's one of our newer subscribers. Great to see you, sir. We also have Reese, one of our oldest subscribers. We have Tim Rink and Mark Tanner. Wiley Thompson is here. Great to see you. Affordable Armory is here. Awesome to see you. Rose Blight. That's a new name to me. So welcome. Thank you for joining us. And look at who's here on time. Pretty punctual, Brian's Custom Canvas. So proud of you. So it is awesome to see everybody tonight. And we will have, I'm sure, you know, more people hopping on. Oh, and of course, I can't forget my most favorite audience member, my husband, who's sitting over here in our creaky rocking chair. So he's had a long day at work, and here he is back with me tonight just to spend some time with Jenny J during the live. So that's always nice. He got home tonight just in time for dinner. I made burrito bowls. I took my 15-year-old shopping. We went and did some things and had to pick up my updated CCW license. And so had to go to the sheriff's department for that. And my 15-year-old thought it was really amusing. She took a picture of the, I don't know, the window where you're supposed to register as an offender. She took a picture of that with the St. Charles police or sheriff's department logo. And she Snapchatted that to her friends and said something about, I'm getting arrested or something. I don't know, something. She thought it was hilarious, and her friends were all like, what? So I said, let this be a lesson to you. Never, ever come back here for real. So then she took a picture as we were leaving, and she said something about, you know, getting out of the big house or something. I don't know. So, you know, kids will be kids, right? So speaking of kids, hopefully everybody survived Halloween last night and trick-or-treating. And I hope that if you do have kids and they went trick-or-treating, you charge them the appropriate candy tax by taking all of your favorite candy and eating it for yourself. Um, so I actually, we didn't have any kids go trick-or-treating this year. I think this is one of the first years I haven't had kids trick-or-treat, and they didn't go out. So, you know, what are you going to do when your kids get that old? I guess we could always dress up like we're kids and go out and try to trick or treat. I don't know. So, all right. So let's see. Rose says, I just started watching Jenny J 1911 about 13 days ago. Well, that is awesome. Welcome. I'm so glad to hear that. Yes, Stephen Hall gives some very sound advice. He says, never drop your soap in jail. I've heard that. Stephen, I want to know, why do you know that? You sound like you know. Do you know that personally? All right. So I want to get to a few topics. You know, we love to discuss Second Amendment on here. And of course, guns and reloading and shooting and all of that fun stuff that, you know, we all feel that common bond and common interest over. The first story I want to get to is something that you all know. Any of you who have been with me for any amount of time, you all know that I, as a former teacher, someone who just left the teaching profession, for my new people who may not know, I just left the teaching profession after this last school year. So this is my first school year not being a teacher, and I am a-okay with that. I am having the best time. I am working solely in the firearms industry now, and I absolutely love it. I am so happy, so not stressed anymore. Teaching is a career unto its own. So you all know that I've had lots of discussions with you about teachers being able to carry. We've talked about school shootings. And so we've talked about these things knowing that, you know, I am especially opinionated on them. And you all know that my opinion is, of course, that teachers should be allowed to carry if they've been trained and they want to carry. If I had been allowed to carry as a teacher, I most absolutely, without hesitation, would have carried. And so that leads me into the topic of something that happened here in St. Louis. And some of you may have seen this in the news. We actually had a shooting at a high school, one of our St. Louis public high schools here, the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. It's a magnet school, but it is one of the schools in the St. Louis Public School District. And when I first moved from Indiana a little over a year ago, my very first teaching job here in the St. Louis area was in the St. Louis Public School District. Now, after 1 quarter there, I left. And there were lots of reasons why, but mostly it was because I was afraid. For my own personal safety, I was afraid. I went to school every single day with a stomach ache. I would talk to my husband on my drive to school just to help keep me calm. We'd talk on the phone, and, you know, it's a really bad day when you have to drive to work with with a really bad stomach ache. So try doing that every single day, day after day after day for 9 weeks. It was horrible. So anyway, I got out of that school. I no longer taught in the St. Louis public school system. I moved to a private school in the St. Louis area. And I'll be discussing that in a little bit too. But back to the Central Visual and Performing Arts High School. They actually had a shooting about, I want to say, a week and a half ago, I think. October, I want to say 24th, maybe. So, and we haven't gotten to talk since then. So this is not something that we've gotten to talk about yet, but you all know my feelings about being able to carry as a teacher. So at this high school in the morning, on Monday morning, two people were shot by a young man who came in, a 19-year-old who was a former student. He had graduated from that high school. And for some reason, and we haven't heard why yet, he went in with, I guess, an AR and started shooting people. So he did kill a health teacher. He also shot and killed a 15-year-old female student. The student was dead at the scene. The teacher actually was transported to a hospital and died there. And then on top of that, there were other people that got shot, other victims that got shot. There was a 16-year-old female who was shot in the leg, a 16-year-old male who was shot in the leg, a 15-year-old male who was shot in both hands and his jaw, a 15-year-old male who was shot in the arm, 15-year-old female who had cuts on her face and knee, a 16-year-old female who suffered a fractured ankle, and a 16-year-old male who had cuts on his face. So apparently there were the first calls, the police department first received calls of these gunshots at 9:25 in the morning. And they said within minutes, the police were in the building and were able to exchange gunfire with the shooter, and they killed him. So 3 people ended up dying, one of which was the shooter. And they don't know why he did it yet, but pretty sad day when crap like that happens. And we talk about gun control and people say, well, obviously that's why people shouldn't be allowed to have guns. Well, I can guarantee you that the people who are going through the appropriate avenues, getting the training, they're not the ones going in and doing this kind of stuff. So again, it's very important that we understand our Second Amendment rights and that we're able to continue having our own guns. And also for the sheer fact of, maybe this person wouldn't have even had a chance to kill anybody if a teacher had been carrying. They had to wait for the police department. Now, the other question is, and this will help me segue into my other story. The other question is, how did he gain entry into the school? That has not been disclosed yet. They did say that the school's doors were locked, but that he was still able to get in. So I'm really not sure how that happened. I'm sure those details will come out eventually, but this is why, I really think that one of the most important and unfortunate self-defenses any school can have is having a very good security system. How did this guy get in? How did he get in with a gun? And they said he had 20 loaded magazines on him or something. So, he was obviously prepared to do this. And how do you hide something like that? So he was able to gain access, but it makes me wonder why or how. So that leads me to my second story. So the second school that I taught at in St. Louis, we had to go to a football game there Friday night because our team, my stepson's team, where my stepson and my daughter go to high school, they were playing my former school. And so we went there to the high school, And I was very, very surprised. Now, this is in St. Louis proper, so it is not the greatest neighborhood where this school is located. And I was very surprised that there was absolutely no kind of security or bag check or anything like that at this football game. I went in carrying a great big wool blanket over my arm. I had on a big puffy coat because it was cold. So now, I'm carrying all this stuff. They never checked me to see if I was carrying a gun or anything like that, which, I didn't carry one because I was at a school. Now, ordinarily, this might not seem like a big deal. However, this very same school, only a year ago, actually had an incident on their football field during a Friday night football game, wherein they had to call in the St. Louis police to intervene because there was a big fight, and I don't really know all of the details. I do have an article pulled up on the computer, but there were, let's see, Webster Groves, Maryland Heights, Ladue police officers, K-9 units were on the scene around 8:15, where at one point, 200 people disrupted traffic on the street outside the school. So there was a crowd in the streets outside the school. And I guess what had happened, and this is from the teachers and the students who were there that I, worked with that had been at the game. They said that people rushed the field. There were guns. People were shooting people. People were fighting, physical fights. Police were tasing people during a game. So that makes me question why I was able to go into this game only a year later with absolutely no kind of check, because if they weren't checking me, they weren't checking anybody. So, and it wasn't because they knew me that they just let me in, it was like all my old friends who still teach there, they're there at the ticket table taking tickets and letting people walk in. And it just makes me wonder, when are we going to start saying, okay, we need more security, so that these kinds of things, like what happened at the Central Visual and Performing Arts, doesn't happen anymore. So I am going to go back up through some of my comments and see what I've missed here. Okay. I am going to, let's see, PA Reloader is good here. Good here. PA Reloader is here. Good to see you. Okay. Cowboy Jeff says he didn't get any Halloween treats there because his kids didn't want to go trick-or-treating. Oh, that stinks. Rose Blight, you're like me. You told Cowboy Jeff your nearest neighbor to you is a half mile away. Living on a farm tends to keep children away. I had the same thing. When I was a kid, I never actually went trick-or-treating because I lived on a farm. We would get dressed up in our costumes and my mom would load us up in the car and we'd drive over to Grandma's house 2 miles away. And Grandma would have a bag of candy and we'd say trick or treat at her back door and she would drop candy in our bag and then we'd go in the house and eat the candy. So that was kind of the extent of our trick or treating. Emmy is here. Good to see you. AR Gun 1776 is here. Awesome to see you. All right. So Emmy says under Wyoming law, school districts may authorize employees who hold a concealed carry permit to carry a concealed firearm on or into school. Yes. And I know that there are a lot of states who have schools that will allow teachers to carry. But the problem, I think, is that A lot of administration at schools they don't agree that it would be necessary or safe for a teacher to be carrying. So that's, your first line of, if you want to approach someone about being able to carry as a teacher, that's the first person you need to talk to. And it's unfortunate that, at least in my experience, people who work at a school aren't necessarily pro firearm. A lot of them feel like all guns are bad. Anybody who has a gun is bad. They're dangerous. Nobody should be allowed to have them at all, period. And that's the end of the story. So, every once in a while you'll run across a school. I know we have schools in Missouri that do allow teachers to carry. I've heard the same goes for schools in Florida, schools in Texas. So, I think that it's becoming more and more prominent, but at the same time, probably not enough yet. So hopefully we'll be able to, with more dialogue and discourse, we can start changing that for people. Maybe that's something that I'm passionate about as a former teacher. Maybe that's something I need to, go to bat for some other teachers on, now that I don't have to worry about losing my teaching job for voicing my opinion about guns. Maybe that's going to be one of my callings in life. I don't know. Dale Pogue is here. Hey, great to see you, Dale. Reese says out of control teens are scary. Not going to disagree with that. Definitely not gonna. Let's see. Reese says he was probably just looking for a little fame. Yeah, it makes you wonder, doesn't it? Critter. Hey, Critter, good to see you. Critter says shooters should be subjected to being restrained in a 3-foot by 3-foot cage and be shot with a BB gun for a nominal charge and televised on pay-per-view. Hey, and then they make so much money on that. We could let like the state make the money on that, and then they could lower our taxes, because think about how much money they would make from having people pay for that privilege. Dale says, my daughter is a teacher. They're talking next year, maybe carrying guns. Dale, do you mind if I ask what state your daughter is a teacher in? Small town. I just needed to read further down. Small town in Oklahoma. Perfect. That's awesome. Very cool and good for her. I think that's really great. Rose Blight says, I'm going to actually put this up on my screen. The Gun-Free School Zone Act of 1990 has caused more deaths/injuries and school shootings in 30 years than the previous 150 years, thanks to principals, coaches, and teachers being disarmed. Yeah. And, honestly, like, I don't even think it's necessarily about them being disarmed, but think about the type of punishment that used to be allowed in schools versus the type of punishment that's allowed now. I can very vividly remember there was maybe one boy in my entire middle school. My middle school was 4th through 8th grade in Ohio. One boy in the entire middle school who I think we ever had knowledge of getting paddled, because the principal had the paddle, Principal Figgins. I still remember he had his paddle hanging up on the wall in the office. And he used it when he needed to use it. He used it. So the kids respected the authority figures in the school. They respected the adults. They respected the secretaries, the teachers, the coaches, the bus drivers. I mean, if you were an adult working at a school, the cafeteria ladies, If you were an adult working at a school, the kids generally respected you. Having been a teacher very recently, I can tell you 1000% that most kids do not respect teachers. They do not respect teachers at all. In fact, I had a student this last year. She told me that, and this was at the private school that I taught at, she said, teachers don't deserve our respect. I mean, she outright told me that. And I said, why not? And she said, they haven't done anything to deserve it. And I thought, isn't that a little backwards? I mean, but that was just one of those eye-opening moments for me where I realized that the level of respect that students have now for adults is just drastically different than the level of respect any of us had when we were in school. So very scary. Now I will also say that, there are always some really great kids. Not all kids are disrespectful. There are definitely some wonderful, amazing young people out there who do respect adults. They've been taught at home to respect adults. And, every year I've had some favorite students, and those students I will always hold near and dear to my heart. In fact, I got to see one Friday night at the football game, and he saw me and he was so excited, and he hugged me so hard. He bear hugged me. He picked me up like this, and then he held onto my hands. One of my high school kids, and he was just so excited to see me. And he was like, please come back. Please come back to the school. Please come back and be our teacher. We need you. We miss you. And I said, nope. Sorry. Sorry, man. I said, you know what I'm doing now? And he said, what? I said, I make guns. I mean, how cool is that? So, there are not all kids are bad kids, but it seems like more and more the trend is that they don't need to respect the teachers. So kind of stinks. Okay. Brian's custom canvas is asking why his comment is light and not dark like usual. Brian, I don't know. Your comment looks normal to me, so I don't know what's going on. Okay. So, hey, D. Luddit is here. D. Luddit is one of my subscribers, and I actually got to meet him at Gateway just a couple of weeks ago. My husband and I got to meet him, and we had a great time talking with him. And I actually asked him, I said, hey, would you want to make a video with me sometime, just like of shooting? And so if everybody thinks that you'd like to see a video of me shooting with one of my subscribers, one of my J crew, drop a little comment down there in the box and say, yes, D Luddit, just because he's here and so close to the area, and I've already gotten to meet him. I think that was that a Saturday morning that we got to meet? But yeah, we had a really nice chat. And so he's saying here, he wants D's SAS 2 4 1/4. That's so you all know I talk about Dennis out at Gateway all the time. Dennis has he's the one with the SAS 2 tack that I reviewed in one of the videos, and so D Luddit got to see it. It's a really nice gun. It's that bull, just in case anybody doesn't remember. It's that bull that I got to do the review on. So, all right. Affordable Armory apparently was a pro trick-or-treater. He said he and his friends were the best at trick-or-treating. They hit up multiple neighborhoods in one night. They got to use pillowcases to hold all the candy. I always saw that in the movies and stuff, but I don't know, never got to do it. So, oh well. Roland 1911, awesome to see you. And he says he's all in for armed and trained teachers. Those who oppose that, you are part of the problem. There are a lot of people who do oppose that. I can tell you that. At my last teaching job, actually, I was talking to a lady there who was one of the school counselors. And some of the other teachers were asking me, this was kind of when the gun channel was a little bit newer. And they said, oh, what's it like? Like, what's YouTube like? How does that work? They were trying to understand how the whole YouTube thing works. And she said, wait, you have a YouTube channel? And I said, yeah, I do. And she was like, so what is it about? And I said, well, it's about guns and shooting and reloading. And she was like, oh. And I knew immediately. I thought, oh boy, here we go. And she said, so you support gun rights? And I said, well, yeah, of course I do. And she said, well, I'm in the Moms Against Guns group. And she said, you need to come to one of our meetings so that you can understand what we're about. And I was telling my husband about it later, and he said, well, you needed to tell her you need to come out to the range and shoot with me sometime so you can understand what I'm all about. So, but that's just, par for the course for working in a school. Most people don't want to have any part of that. They're not open to it. They, even though I am so much about education, firearms education, firearms safety, I am, a huge proponent of that. My husband and I both are. But that's not what people hone in on. They don't focus on that. When you tell them that, they just focus on the fact that you own guns. So it's always going to be a struggle, but I guess by having our dialogue all the time, hopefully it's less of a struggle, Okay. Reese says, yay for free speech. Yay! Yeah, I know. Except when you're working at a school, then you are at the school's mercy. Cowboy Jeff really likes the idea of I think Critter's idea of the 3x3 cage with the BB gun. Dale says it's not a gun-free zone if I'm there. Yeah. It's funny because people always ask us about, people who are taking our concealed carry classes. It's always a huge discussion of, where can you and can't you carry? What about the little signs that say you can't have a gun? What about the signs that have the picture of the gun with the circle through or the line through it? We talk about all the differences of all the different places. And that's just always a really, really huge topic of discussion, where you can and cannot carry. Okay. So apparently Dale has a lot of non-gun-free zones in his life. Okay. So PA Reloader says, my son's school has a rifle club. That is amazing. Oh my gosh. I wish our school had a rifle club. Anyway, PA Reloader goes on to say, I was shocked when I found that out. He graduated that year, so he was never able to participate. Oh, that stinks. But that's very cool. I'm assuming PA Reloader, that's a school in Pennsylvania. But that is really, really super cool. I know that there are quite a few high schools that have rifle clubs and have shotgun clubs, like, different clubs around various shooting sports. And so that's pretty cool. We do have a lot of youth shooting sports clubs here in the St. Louis area. Mostly shotgun, trap and skeet groups, but I love that there are so many around here, and kids can take their pick. They can join whatever club they want, and it's just really nice that they have the ability to, they have that offering, because I don't know a lot of schools in our area that do offer that, but that they're able to do that through these organizations. Reese says kids don't respect anyone anymore. It's unfortunately very true. Okay, Roland 1911 makes a great point. He says kids don't respect because parenting skills have changed. In my days, if I did something wrong, I'd be disciplined by the teacher. Today, a teacher disciplines a kid, and that's a lawsuit. Yes, exactly. And also, because Roland, let's take this one step further. If a teacher disciplines a kid, okay, if a teacher disciplined a kid 30 years ago, 20 years ago, the kid would go home, and then they would also get in trouble at home for having gotten in trouble at school. Now the kid gets in trouble at school, they go home and they say, I got in trouble at school. And the parents are marching into the school and complaining about the teacher. So that is really where the difference is. It's with the parents, because the parents are not allowing or not accepting any kind of disciplinary action, whether it's putting their school in or their student in an in-school suspension or taking away an activity. It doesn't matter what you do. You have parents that get upset because their child isn't being treated the same as the other kids at all times. So really, I think that the parents should be held accountable for this. They're not holding themselves accountable. Thereby, they're not holding their children accountable. Now it's always the teachers and administrators' faults. And I think most teachers are afraid to make waves with their administrators, with the parents, and the administrators are usually going to allow the parents to call the shots. And that's not how it should be. I've said for quite a few years now that teaching has become a customer service industry rather than an education industry, because we have had to treat our students and their parents like they're our customers who are always right, rather than treating it as an educational opportunity. So that was really the big reason I got out of education, because I don't agree with that. So, and boy, oh boy, does it feel good to say that. Yay for me. Okay. Let's see. D Ludit says hi. Now that I saw his comment. Okay. All right. So Roland says, I was disciplined by my teachers and turned out okay. Now kids play games like GTA. In case you guys don't know, that's Grand Theft Auto, where they get points for raping women and killing cops, and everybody's okay with that. Yeah, it's scary, right? That has become the norm. And I hope that I don't lose my monetization because I just said that. I'll probably have to go back through and make a disclaimer in my video. But anyway, it is scary that these things have all become so commonplace. And yeah, I mean, we see it in video games, we see it in movies. People are just accepting of it. So it's a whole different world now than what it was when I was a kid. Okay. Cowboy Jeff says he's still waiting for his first class round trip flights to come out and shoot. Oh yeah, Reese says he has to bite his tongue at work. And I know a lot of people, I complain about having to have bitten my tongue as a teacher. And I know there are a lot of places, a lot of industries where employees feel like they cannot express themselves. My mom used to actually work for a county engineer's office, and she wasn't allowed to give her opinion there. Before that, she worked for a newspaper. Of course, she definitely wasn't allowed to give her opinion there. She would want to put political yard signs out, and she couldn't do that because, especially at the newspaper, if people found out where she lived and knew that she wrote for the newspaper and saw a political sign in our yard, it would be all over. So, yeah. So I know there are lots of places where we're not allowed to express ourselves, but guess what? I'm in a job where I can, and I love it. And the people I work with, most of the people I work with, are of like mind, and it's just a breath of fresh air for me after having been forced to keep my opinions to myself for so long. So it's just nice. Vanessa Kitty is here. Hey, good to see you. Reese says Ace Hardware is not 2A friendly. Huh. Did not know that. Good to know, though. Cowboy Jeff says, if I don't see the sign or only read part of it, I assume I need to carry on. Yep. That's all I'm going to say. I'm not condoning that behavior, Cowboy Jeff. Emmy says, our stores in northern Wyoming are gun friendly. Some have signs requesting that guns stay in holsters while shopping. Yeah. And, honestly, like, I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I think that that's good practice, keep your gun holstered. And we talked a lot, I think maybe the last live I had, we talked about, concealing versus open carrying. But either way, keeping your gun in a holster, I think is a great idea. I choose to conceal just because I feel like, I don't want people to know what I'm equipped with. And as I told you guys, I saw that video of the young man who grabbed a gun out of another guy's holster on his waist because he was open carrying. I don't want to be subjected to that. I don't want to have that happen to me. So, I choose to conceal carry, but yeah, I think that, keeping your gun in a holster while you're shopping, perfectly fine. So I'm just glad I get to have it with me, Brian's custom canvas says, Brian, I accidentally dropped my phone in the parking lot last week at Hannaford Grocery, and the screen is like a cheese grater. Thank goodness for earbuds and mic dictate. I had a phone the same exact way. It was my iPhone, and I dropped it from, if any of you have ever been to City Museum in St. Louis, very cool place to go. It's basically like, I don't know, how many stories tall is it? Like 13 stories or something. It's big. And the whole thing is basically like a hamster house. And you just, adults and kids, you can crawl through. There are ladders and tunnels and slides and just, all kinds of things to have to crawl through and crawl up. And so my girls and I ended up crawling up in the top of this ceiling that I would say is probably 60 feet off the ground. And there was like a basket hanging from the ceiling. And my girls and I got up there, and my phone fell out of my shorts pocket. And as my husband was standing underneath this basket like this, trying to take a picture of us while we were hanging over his head, here comes my phone right down on the ground, right at his feet. Thank goodness it didn't hit him. But it fell right at his feet, and the entire screen shattered. And I had the same effect of the cheese grater, Brian, as you do. my whole screen. I ended up putting a piece of packaging tape on it, because I didn't want to cut myself. I didn't have a screen protector on it. And I thought, you know what? I can live with this. It still works fine. And then the next day I was talking on my phone. I had been on the phone for 12 minutes and it felt like it was going to explode in my hand. It was so hot. I realized there might be some other internal issues to my poor phone. So I ended up getting a new phone. Made the jump from iPhone to Samsung. So glad I did that. And, so yeah, I can totally relate to the screen being like a cheese grater, Brian. Sorry that you are going through that. Okay, let's see. I am trying to get caught up on all my comments here. Rose says actual parenting went out the window decades ago, which is sad. Yes, it's true. Now we just have, screens to do the parenting. Devices, electronic devices do the parenting. So, Vanessa Kitty says you come to class to learn math. Fairly simple. Yeah, exactly. What? You would come to school to learn about a subject, like a core subject? What? That's just crazy. You're talking crazy talk, Vanessa Kitty. Reese says personal responsibility is an unreasonable expectation these days. So yeah. Okay. Vanessa Kitty also says I teach, and for anybody that doesn't know, Vanessa Kitty is a math teacher. We've learned that in our past lives. Not our past lives, our past live episodes. I teach personal responsibility in every math class. Math is not a spectator sport. You must participate. That's true. And, you can't learn math unless you're doing it. So you've got to participate in it. Just saying. Let's see. Tom, Tom is here. Hey, Tom, good to see you. Yes, I'm glad to see you've missed me. I've missed you too. And yes, I have definitely missed your puns. Thank you so much. Thank you for being here. I hope I read some puns before we are done in like 13 minutes. Dale Pogue says he bought his helper a gun so they can go shoot together. Well, that's awfully nice of you. Okay. Rose Blight says it took over 6 months after Texas became constitutional carry for my 85-year-old mom to start carrying. She, like I, now conceal carry every day. Ah, that is so awesome. I love that. That is so cool. Okay. I know I'm skipping through so many comments and I have so many people making great comments. Let's see. Grip tape. Okay, so Brian says, I believe in New York actually helped me with grip tape and empty chamber. No mag was cool. They had no problem. A+ for that store, even in New York. Wow, yeah, in New York. That's kind of amazing. CK, good to see you, CK. Here in Georgia, you can carry pretty much everywhere, despite what the Dems in Atlanta want it to be. Well, you know what? They're not the only ones with voices. We have voices too. So sometimes we need to make our voices heard, right? I have 2 more things I want to talk about, and I've got 11 minutes to do it in. So I am going to get to those. First of all, I think the last time I talked to you guys, we were getting ready to teach a youth firearm safety class. And oh my gosh, it was so cool. I think it was the night before, actually. We had the Friday night live, the Friday night date night. And then I think it was the next morning that we had the youth classes. So it was incredible. The one girl, she was 14 and she was like, oh my gosh, this was the best day ever. She had never shot a gun before. And we did the classroom portion, talked about all of the safety rules, taught them how to load the magazine, taught them how to load the gun. We taught them, we showed them like what ammunition is made of and how that works and how it processes in the gun. And we talked about shooting stance, and we talked about, the safety rules. We talked about sight picture, all of those things. And then we get out to the range to incorporate all of this stuff. And this 14-year-old girl who had never shot before she was a sharpshooter. Oh my gosh, I could not believe how well that girl shot. And she had so much fun, so much fun. I ended up telling her, I said, hey, hey, Dennis, good to see you. She was a sharpshooter. Exactly. Dennis was there that day, actually, when we came out of the range, and he was actually on the range with us. He had some students next to the booth we were in. And I kept saying, Dennis, look what my student is doing. So yes, she was a sharpshooter. We ended up telling her like, hey, you can become an NRA junior instructor. I told her you can go to college and get shooting scholarships. We told her, here at Lindenwood in St. Charles, she could be on a shooting team. And she was like, really? Like, she was so excited by all of this. And it was just, this is why we do what we do, right? Because, not only do we teach firearms safety and CCW and whatnot to adults, but to teach it to these kids who ordinarily might not have the chance to learn how to shoot or get the opportunity to do this. Her family was amazing for signing her up to do this. Actually, they signed up 3 kids from their family to do this. And so they had 3 shooters as our students. And so kudos to that family, because they wanted their kids to respect firearms and understand how they worked and be able to use them. And, seeing this young lady who, I don't know what her interests are. I don't know what she does outside of school. I don't know what kind of student she is in school, but just seeing her do this new thing and totally love it and totally, pardon the pun, blow it away. Like, she was amazing. And she shot lots of different calibers. We took lots of different guns out with us so she could try them out. We had her little brother, who was 6 years old. And I know a lot of anti-gun people would say, oh no, you can't have a 6-year-old shooting a gun. But I can tell you that, honestly, is it ever too early for a kid to understand firearms, especially if they're in a very safe and controlled setting like what we had them in? This little 6-year-old had never shot before, had never held a gun before. And so his grandpa actually was out on the range with us and has the coolest video. I'm actually going to ask him if I can share that with you guys. Maybe I can share it on my channel. Has me showing this kid, after he'd gone through our classroom part and we had him out for the live fire exercise, has me down there, I'm down like on my knees next to this kid, helping him. And I just talked to his grandpa today, actually. And the grandpa said, it was just really cool to see you were like right there with him the entire time. I felt like you had complete control of the situation. And it was true. I mean, we had him just shoot a little 22. He was shooting, I think he was shooting like a Ruger Mark II. And, it was, I kept my hands right there the entire time until he was ready to pull that trigger. And then I was still right there, right on top of him. And the video just is so cool to see, because you see me put my arm around him and like show him things over this way and everything. And it was such a cool video. and his grandpa put it on Facebook. And so it was just, it's really cool to see these kids who go out there and try this and they enjoy doing it. And knowing that we're part of that, that's just very, very rewarding. I would say that's just as rewarding as being able to teach an adult. So, and I don't know, maybe that's just, part of my teaching passion, having been teacher to multiple age levels of kids. So, Reese wants to know, what was she shooting? Well, let's see. She shot, well, if you all remember the Deutsche Werke video, I had that little German garden rifle, the 22. She got to shoot that. And so that was fun to see her shoot that. She shot that. She shot the Ruger Mark II. She shot my Hellcat. What else did she shoot? I'm trying to remember. Oh, she shot, her grandpa had a Taurus 22. She was shooting that. So, she got to try lots of different things. She shot our bull. She loved that. That was our 9mm 1911, the commander size one. She totally loved that. Actually, there wasn't anything that she shot she didn't like. So, so good for her. So Roland says kids usually do the first time because they listen. My worst students were ex-cops and military, probably because they didn't want to listen, right? They already know what they need to know. That's probably true too. I mean, I think that, the shooting thing is new to the kids, and so they're very interested to learn. And, honestly, like, I think that a lot of kids, when they get to do that, kind of makes them feel like they're a little bit of a badass. What kid doesn't like that? Dennis makes a great point, actually. He says she had no bad habits or misconceptions as to what to do. That's actually very, very true. And yeah, Dennis and my husband just both gave me a note at the same time. She also shot our single action revolver. She shot was it the Black Hawk that we had out there? Or I don't remember which revolver we had, whether it was the Black Hawk or the Smith & Wesson, but she did shoot the 38 special single action. So, and she liked that one too. So yeah, so awesome to see a kid get to do that. Critter gives great advice. He says, get her to shoot a 45-70. Just make sure she's got a wall to her back. No, I don't know. I mean, I don't think she would turn it down, honestly. I think she's game for trying anything, which, that's a girl after my own heart. So, Catchman says, have you ever shot a Star BM as a 1911 lover? You will love them. I have not. No, I have not. But, I'm always up for shooting whatever. So, and me, I do love 1911s. They're always going to be my favorite, even though I kind of get sidetracked with revolvers. Sometimes I do love myself a good revolver. So, Dale Pogue says, last competition I went to with my son, he came in second. I came in fourth. I gave him the ammo and paid his way in. And he outshot you. Well, maybe he was in a different age category. So that's okay then. Seth Newberry, hey, you finally got on a live stream. Good to see you. Thank you. I'm so glad you got to be here. So let's see. One more thing I wanted to tell you guys about before I have to quickly wrap this up, because my alarm goes off at what time? 4:00 in the morning. And that's going to be here before we know it. We are gearing up. Mr. Jenny J and I are gearing up to go to Tulsa in a week and a half. And so I would love for you guys to comment on this video. Now you'll have to go back in. Don't do it on this live, but go back in to the YouTube comment on this video and let me know what is one thing you would like to look for at a gun show. What is, if you were to go to a gun show and could only look for one thing, what would it be? And I would love to see your list. So also make sure that you hit the like button on this video. Pretty please and thank you. And I have to give a huge shout out to my very newest member, Rose Blight. Thank you so much, Rose. You are amazing. You know, Rose is new and she's already joined and become a member. So thank you so much. I love it. I appreciate you very much. And I appreciate all of you very much because you've been here. We've had a great chat tonight. And it's time for me to go to bed. So I, have enjoyed talking to you guys. Make sure that you are helping promote this channel. Tell your friends, tell your family to watch it. We're still trying to get up to the 5,000 subscriber mark so that I can give away this Dylan Press. Not my Dylan Press. You can't have that one. Your own Dylan Press. I will give it to one of you as long as you are a subscriber. So please make sure you hit like and subscribe. Go back and watch videos. Help promote the channel. Get other people to subscribe. And be on the lookout for some new videos to come out. Now that we have a little more time on our hands, we're going to be pushing those videos, going out to Tulsa, getting lots of video there, and we'll be your eyes and ears on the ground. And I hope you all have a great rest of your week. And I look forward to talking to you all again soon. Good night and sweet dreams.